This mysterious AI image editor called Nanobanana, which is by far the best one out there, has just been revealed. So in this video, I'm going to go over what exactly Nanobanana is, and I'm going to show you all the impressive things you can and cannot do with this, and compare it with the other leading image editors out there. Plus, of course, I'm going to show you how to use it. Let's jump right in. So just in this morning, it turns out that Nanobanana is actually Gemini 2.5 Flash. Now remember that Gemini 2.5 is a multimodal model. So not only can you talk to it using natural language, but it can also understand audio, video, and of course images. Now, instead of just analyzing images, it can also create images. So that's exactly what Nanobanana is. It's just Gemini 2.5 Flash with image generation and editing capabilities. And if you look at this leaderboard by LM Arena, this is where users can blind test different AI models, it's not even close. So Gemini 2.5 beats second place by almost 200 ELO points. That's an insane lead. Notice that the rest of these models are actually pretty close. They're all like around 1100. So this is like way better than everything else. So in this video, I'm going to compare Nanobanana with the previous leading AI image editor, GPT-4o, plus the leading free and open source image editor, which was just released last week, called Qwen Image Edit, just to show you all the cool things that each one can do. Now, Nanobanana is really good at capturing all the details of reference images, so you can easily create deepfakes with this tool. For example, for my original image, if I have Will Smith and Emma Watson and this art gallery, and for the prompt, if I write the man and the woman are in the art gallery, mid-shot photo, the man is wearing a gold tuxedo, the woman is wearing a red dress. Here's what we get from Nanobanana. Notice that this looks exactly like Will Smith and Emma Watson. Plus, the background of this gallery is also the same as what I attached, including the details of this painting. Like if you look closely, the brushstrokes over here are exactly the same as this original photo. Plus, same with this painting over here. Notice that it's exactly the same. Now, I tried doing the same thing with GPT-4o, but it wouldn't let me generate an image. This is probably due to censorship issues around creating deepfakes of celebrities. And then for Qwen Image Edit, here is what I got. It's not bad, except that the background isn't actually what I uploaded, but it is able to do deepfakes very well. Again, this is free and open source, whereas Nanobanana is closed source. Here's another cool thing you can do. So you can just upload a sketch of some poses like this, and then for the prompt, I just wrote, they are fighting according to the pose drawing. And here's what I got from Nanobanana. How insane is that? I mean, this looks exactly like Will Smith and Emma Watson from the original photo. And the pose is also pretty much aligned with my drawing. Super impressive. And then note that for Qwen Image Edit, it completely failed to understand my prompt. And then GPT kind of understood my prompt, but the faces are all messed up and the pose isn't as good as Nanobanana. So you can do so many flexible things with this tool. Alright, here's another really tricky test. So I uploaded this image of the Destiny Gundam, which has a very complicated design, as you can see here. And then I prompted it to make a model sheet of this character with a front, back, and side view. And here's what I got from Nanobanana. I mean, for the most part, this is really good and accurate. I mean, look at how detailed and consistent this is, especially the gun over here. Notice that it's holding the gun in all three views. Plus, I mean, if you just pause the video and look closely, like the face, the design, the details of the wings, and everything are consistent across all three views. This is just extremely good. Now, in contrast, if you look at Qwen Image Edit, it does fail to generate some of the details. There are some flaws like over here, plus the face doesn't even look that good. And then this hand is also messed up over here. Plus the back view is missing wings. So there's just way too many errors with this generation and the views are not consistent. Same with GPT. For this view, it's missing the wings. And then here the wings are also not correct and not consistent with this view, which is also not consistent with the original wing design. So it's not even close. I mean, by far the only one which was able to get it correct is Nanobanana. I hope you can see how much better this tool is. Here's another crazy example. So in the top left is the original image, and for the prompt, I wanted to swap the outfits of the humans and turn the pig's head into a chicken's head. Note that Nanobanana was the only one that could actually swap the outfits of the humans. Notice that the pattern looks exactly the same. It actually pulled this off really nicely. Plus, it also turned the pig into a chicken. I mean, everything is just flawless about this edit. Now, if you look at GPT's generation, it did turn the pig into a chicken. However, it did not swap the outfits. And what do we have here? And then for Qwen Image edit, it was also able to turn the pig into a chicken, but it kind of changed the style of the original image. As you can see here, the lines are more defined and the colors are more saturated. Plus, it failed to swap the outfits of the humans. So as you can see from this example, Nanobanana was the only one that can pull it off. Plus, it was also able to preserve the style and everything else from the original photo. So this is really good at style preservation. Here's another crazy example. You can easily do close swapping or virtual try-on with Nanobanana. So here's my original input with this anime character and this dude doing kung fu. And for the prompt, I wrote change the man's white outfit into the outfit of the anime character. And as you can see, Nanobanana absolutely nailed it. It was able to swap the entire outfit of this man while preserving the pose and his face. I mean, this looks exactly like the man from the original photo, but it's just that we've now gotten him to wear this outfit. I mean, how insane is that? This is absolutely flawless. I mean, with this, Google just killed all the other virtual try-on or clothes swapping apps out there. And then here's GPT's generation. Even though it was able to apply the outfit, it completely changed this person's face. So it's not as good as preserving the details compared to Nanobanana. And then for Qwen Image Edit, it completely failed to actually apply this character's outfit onto this man. So again, as you can see here, Nanobanana is the clear winner. This is what makes it so powerful. Here's another fun example. Here's my input photo where the dad is Indian and the wife is white. And then for the prompt, I put swap the race of the husband and the wife. And for Nanobanana, it absolutely nailed it. It turned the man white and the woman Indian while preserving everything else in the image. How crazy is that? And then for GPT's generation, it didn't actually swap the races, it just put the man over here and the woman over here. So that's not really correct. And then for Qwen Image Edit, it just failed to understand what the prompt is talking about and gave me a very similar image compared to the original image. So again, the clear winner in this example is Nanobanana. It's really good at understanding your prompt and micro-editing the image while preserving the details of the rest of the image. Alright, next let's look at photo restoration. So here's a really old and blurry and damaged black and white photo. I simply wrote restore and colorize this photo. So here's what I got from Nanobanana. You can see everyone looks exactly like the original photo. Like if you look carefully at the faces of each person, the details are exactly the same as the input photo. And it was also able to correct these folds and damages across the photo. Again, with this tool, Google just killed all, photo restoration apps and companies. Now anyone can just plug an old photo into Google's Gemini to restore it. There's no need to hire anyone or use another app to do this for you. And then here's GPT's generation. Unfortunately, this is not satisfactory. So if you look closely, it subtly changes all the faces from the original photo. Plus it even adds glasses to this woman. So that's not really correct. Plus it gave this person 2 extra fingers. That's pretty scary. And then here is Qwen Image Edit. It's actually not bad. It was also able to correct all the damages and colorize this pretty well while preserving the details of everyone in the image. So, this is a close call. I think in this case, it's a tie between Nanobanana and Qwen Image. But let me know in the comments what you think. Alright, next up, I took this original photo and I intentionally messed up the brightness, contrast, saturation, and white balance of this photo to get something horrific like this. And then I plugged this into each image editor and I prompted it to restore the colors of this photo. And here's what I got from each one. As you can see, both Nanobanana and Qwen Image Edit were able to color correct this very well, while preserving the details of the original photo. Notice that it's actually really hard to colorize this again. You can't just readjust the brightness and contrast, etc. in Photoshop because a lot of the pixel and color data are already lost after I did this step. But as you can see, Nanobanana was able to estimate everything and correctly restore the colors again. Now, Qwen Image Edit also did a pretty good job. Note that Nanobanana is slightly more detailed, plus it has a warmer tone, whereas Qwen Image Edit kind of has a cooler tone. And if you compare it with the original image, it looks like the colors of Nanobanana are more correct. It should lean more towards a warmer tone. And then for GPT, it just changes way too many details of the image. So her face is completely wrong. Plus it also removed the human over here. You can see that there should be an extra human over here. So it's not really good at preserving the details of your input image. It tends to subtly change everything in the image. So again, in this case, it's a close call, but if I had to pick a winner, I would go with Nanobanana, as it aligns slightly more with the original colors compared to Qwen Image Edit. Alright, here's a really popular prompt to test out Nanobanana. So if I input this really tricky image of a character, and then I get it to turn this into a figure, and behind it place a box with the character's image printed on it, and then also a computer showing the Blender modeling process on the screen, and then in front of the box add a round plastic base with the character figure standing on it. Here is what we get from Nanobanana. It was able to correctly generate this character as a 3D figure. Notice that the details are exactly the same as this input image, including the pose and, all the details of his outfit. And then it also adds a box with this character printed on it. And this is also correct. Plus, in the background, you can see what seems to be a really accurate, screenshot of the modeling process of this character in Blender. Like, this looks pretty accurate. Again, everything looks pretty flawless to me, except for, some gibberish text over here. Now, if you look at Qwen Image Edit, it's actually not bad. So it was able to kind of generate this character, although the face is messed up over here, and it's also able to generate a box with the character printed on it, plus a screenshot of the 3D modeling step. Although if I had to compare the realism of this screen versus this screen, then obviously Nanobanana would get the point. And then here is GPT's generation. Again, the face plus the outfit is kind of messed up. So if you compare this with the original image, a lot of the details, like the gold outlining across his outfit, are just completely changed. So again, GPT isn't actually that good at preserving the details of your original character. Plus, this screenshot is also a bit messed up. You can see that the model is gray, but somehow this part is colored blue. So everything just does not look accurate. Here, if I had to pick a winner, again, the point would go to Nanobanana. Alright, here's something crazy that I discovered. I don't think anyone else has come across this yet. You're free to try this out yourself. So what I did was I uploaded this black and white manga page, and basically I got it to colorize this page. Now the really scary thing is for Nanobanana, first of all, it's able to detect and identify this character, which should have pink hair. And so, it actually colored this character correctly. However, it completely changed the panels and the text and everything on the page. So you can see it's completely different from this. However, some of the text is still there. So at the top, the text is still there. Same with like this one, it still kind of makes sense, but here we start to see some misspellings. In the previous examples, I've shown you that Nanobanana is really good at preserving the details of your input image, but I'm not sure why over here it somehow decided to change this panel into a completely different image like this. And by the way, this character kind of actually exists, so this is basically like the evil form of this character, if you haven't watched this anime. But none of this data was in the original page. So it's really strange why it decided to significantly edit these panels. And then for your information, here's the generation from Qwen Image Edit. So it was able to colorize everything. There are some errors like over here, but I do like that it was able to keep the text and everything the same as the original photo. It doesn't seem to know this character, so it just colored his hair yellow instead of pink. And then for GPT, it seems to know this character, so the colorization is correct. However, again, it just subtly messes everything up. The face is different, the text is also different. This is not a good generation. And to show you that this isn't just an error, I ran the prompt again And here's another example of Nanobanana's output. So I don't know why, but somehow it changes this panel to this character. It changes all these panels to something like this. Let me know in the comments why you think this is going on. Let me tell you about this awesome tool called ChatLLM by Abacus AI, the sponsor of this video. ChatLLM is an all-in-one platform for you to use the best AI models out there. You can seamlessly switch between different models, plus you can use the best image generators out there and the best video generators out there all in one integrated platform. Plus, if you're coding something, they have a really useful artifacts feature so that you can preview your generation side by side. Plus, they have a deep agent feature which can do really complex tasks all autonomously, like creating PowerPoints, websites, and research reports. It's gonna supercharge your productivity. You can access all these AI models and image and video generators and Deep Agent for only $10 a month. This is way cheaper than if you paid for each tool separately. Definitely check out ChatLLM that comes with Deep Agent in the description below. Next, I tried asking it some trickier prompts. So here's the original input image. This is like a ultra wide angle fisheye image, and then I prompted it to retake this photo but with a 100mm f1.4 lens. So in reality, it should zoom in on his face, plus it should remove these distortions around the edges, plus it should blur out the background because the aperture is only 1.4. Now for Nanobanana, this is what we get, which is not correct. So a 100mm lens should not have this fisheye effect. And then for Qwen Image Edit, it didn't seem to actually change the image, so that was also a fail. Surprisingly, GPT actually understood my prompt and it got this correct. So it was able to generate this photo but taken with a 100mm f1.4 lens. However, as with the previous examples I showed you, the only thing that bugs me is it subtly changes the details of his face. So this man doesn't look exactly like the original man. But here you go. Here's a prompt where Nanobanana actually did not do very well. Alright, here's another tricky prompt. So here's an input image, and I wanted to make a grid of 9 photos of this person, each with a different expression. So from left to right, row 1 is happy, crying, scared. Row 2 is excited, shocked, bored. Row 3 is angry, confused, and disgusted. So number 1, I'm trying to test each image editor's ability to generate, deepfake photos of this person with different expressions. Plus, I'm also testing its ability to understand my prompt and generate the exact order that I specified. So here is Nanobanana. The first one does look happy. For the second one, she is crying. And the third one, I don't know. Does she look scared to you? The fourth one does look excited. This one, does she look shocked to you? I don't know what that expression is. And then this one should be bored. I don't know if this is exactly a bored expression, but let me know in the comments what you think. And then this one should be angry, which is correct. This is confused. It's kind of hard to tell what this expression is. As you can see, that's why I'm not really good with girls. And then this one should be disgusted. I guess she kind of looks disgusted. So anyways, that is Nanobanana's generation. And then for Qwen Image Edit, all of these expressions are just way too exaggerated, plus they don't actually match what I prompted, so it's a fail. Here is GPT's generation. Even though some of these expressions are kind of exaggerated, it actually portrays what I specified very well. The first one is happy, which is correct. This is crying, which is correct. This one should be scared, and indeed she looks scared. Here is excited, and she does look excited. This one is shocked, and she does look shocked. This one should be bored, and she does look very bored. This one is angry, which is correct. And then we have confused and disgusted. These indeed look like confused and disgusted. So in terms of accurately portraying the expressions that I specified, I would have to give the point to GPT. However, again, notice that it does slightly change her face. So in terms of fidelity and actually generating the same person as my input, then the point goes to Nanobanana. So again, it's hard to pick a winner here. If you want fidelity, then Nanobanana is better, but in terms of accurately portraying expressions and emotions, it seems like GPT does a better job. Next, here's my input photo. There's a ton of annoying tourists in the background, so let's remove them all. So here's what I got from Nanobanana. Interestingly, it did not remove everyone from the scene, so there are still a few annoying humans in the background. Now for both GPT and Qwen Image Edit, they were able to remove everyone in the scene, but it also kind of changed the original image. So for GPT, it just completely changed her face, so that's a fail. And then for Qwen Image Edit, her face is better, but it just applied some really plasticky feel to this image. So in terms of actually preserving all the details of this woman and the background, Nanobanana does a much better job. All right, here's a really tricky test which I didn't expect any image editor to get correct. Here I have this photo of a classroom with a ton of students, and for the prompt I wrote turn the girls into cats and the boys into dogs. So Nanobanana completely failed. You can see it didn't turn all the girls into cats, so for example, these are still human, and then even like this cat thing over here, it's just really weird and it doesn't really blend in with the original photo. And then also note that this person is a girl, this person is a girl, but over here it changed them into dogs instead of cats. So not really good. Now surprisingly, Qwen Image could actually do like half of this. Now this does blend in much better than Nanobanana. However, note that there are still some humans in the scene, plus it incorrectly turned this girl into a dog, even though she should be a cat. Now, surprisingly, GPT did very well. It almost got it correct. So it turned all the girls into cats and most of the guys into dogs, except for this one. So notice that over here, this is a guy, so this should be a dog, not a cat. So none of them got it completely correct, but relatively speaking, the winner would have to go to GPT. All right, next I also wanted to test how good it is at zooming into a photo. So here's a photo of a kingfisher. Notice that if I zoom in, this is pretty low quality and blurry. So I prompted it to zoom in on the bird, ultra sharp details of the bird, professional photography. Here's what I got from Nanobanana. Surprisingly for this example, it decided to change the pose. So notice that the fish is not correct. And then here's what I got from Qwen Image. It was the only image editor out of the three that was able to preserve the original pose of the fish and the bird. And then here's what I got from GPT. This is indeed a close-up of the bird with ultra sharp details. However, the fish is completely wrong and it didn't really preserve the original pose of the kingfisher. So in this example, I would have to give the point to Qwen Image Edit. Now, even though Nanobanana is great for a ton of things, it's not perfect. There are a few things which it does not perform well at, in which case it's probably better if you use another image editor. So here's a really tricky prompt where I have this input image, and if I get it to turn the left half into Lego style and the right half into 3D Pixar style, Nanobanana completely fails at, transferring the style onto this photo. I tried multiple times, but it still just gave me something like this. Qwen Image Edit tried its best, but it mistakenly inserted a Lego character over here, plus I guess all of these look like Lego characters. There's not really any 3D Pixar style here. So in this case, GPT is the winner. The left half is indeed Lego characters, and the right half is indeed Pixar style. Now here's another example where Nanobanana really sucks at style transfer. So if I input the same photo and I get it to turn it into anime style, this is what I get. So it seems to turn it into like a really realistic pencil drawing, but this is clearly not anime style. I also tried using different prompts like Japanese anime style, but it just would not turn a realistic photo into anime style. And then here's what I got from GPT and Qwen Image Edit. Both of them are pretty good, so it just depends on what style of anime you're going for. So in this case, I would say it's a tie between GPT and Qwen. All right, let's see if it can do homework. So I uploaded this image where we need to label all the organelles in the cell. And then I asked it to add the correct labels to the organelles. Now, unfortunately, even though Nanobanana and GPT came close, none of them could actually label the organelles correctly. So here it is able to fill in the blanks of some of them, but the answers are not correct. Plus there are some misspellings everywhere, like over here and over here and over here. So there's a lot of typos. This is not correct. And then for Qwen Image Edit, this is even worse. It could not understand my prompt and it just gave me gibberish. And then over here for GPT, notice that it significantly changed the picture of this cell. So you can't really cheat using this method because it's going to subtly change whatever you input. But anyways, it did get the spellings of the organelles correct. However, it's labeling everything completely wrong, so most of these are not correct. For example, mitochondrion should not be pointing over here. Next, I wanted to see how good it is at editing text. So here's my input image, and then for the prompt, I put change the text naturally to with poison. And Nano Banana aced this. It was able to change naturally to with poison while preserving the original font and style of the text and everything else in the image. And actually, both Qwen Image Edit and GPT were able to nail this as well. However, note that again with GPT, it does tend to subtly change things in your original image. So for example, notice the leaves on the strawberries are kind of different compared to the original image. The blueberries are also kind of slightly different, so it's not really good at preserving the exact details of your input image and only micro-editing what you specify. Anyways, in this example, I would have to say it's a tie between Nano Banana and Qwen Image Edit. Next, here's a test which I know Qwen Image Edit will do very well at, which is turning English text into Chinese. Here's what I got from Nano Banana. Unfortunately, the Chinese is not correct. So this doesn't actually make sense, plus it left this text English for some reason. Surprisingly, GPT was actually able to get this correct. So the Chinese is actually correct, plus it's able to preserve the original font of my input photo. And not surprisingly, Qwen Image Edit was able to nail this. It's really good at handling text, especially preserving the original style and font of your input image. In fact, if you're not familiar with Qwen Image Edit, definitely see this video where I do a full installation tutorial and review on it. But anyways, back to here, that sums up my tests with Nano Banana or Gemini 2.5 Flash against the leading closed source image editor GPT-4o and the leading open source image editor Qwen Image Edit. Hopefully that gives you a sense of what it can and cannot do. Overall though, in terms of preserving the details of your original image, in terms of understanding your prompt, and in terms of creating deepfakes, Nano Banana is clearly better than everything else. Alright, so next up, I bet you're dying to know how and where can you use this. So first and foremost, you can use Gemini 2.5 Flash Image or Nano Banana directly in Google's AI Studio for free. So it's just aistudio.google.com. I'll link to this in the description below, but once you sign up or log in for free with your Google account, notice that over here you can select the latest Gemini 2.5 Flash Image. So you can simply upload an image here, and then I'm going to write something like, turn this into an action figure on a desk. Let's click run. Alright, and here is what I got. Very nice. And you can click download over here. Now notice that, at least right now, there is a limited free quota for using Gemini 2.5 image. So at least for me, I could only generate like 3 to 5 images before my free quota runs out. So keep that in mind. But of course you can sign up with another account. Now, at the time of this recording, you might be wondering if you can also use it on their Gemini platform, because down here you can also select 2.5 Flash. Well, I tried doing that. I tried uploading an image and prompting it, but here's the response that I got. So it doesn't look like the image version of 2.5 Flash is included on the Gemini interface, at least at the time of this recording. Another place to use this is in LM Arena. This is where users can blind test different AI models side by side. So I'll link to this page in the description below as well, but at the top here, if you just choose Battle, then it's going to randomly choose 2 image editors for you, and you might not get Nano Banana. So instead, you can try side by side or direct chat. So for example, let's go with direct chat, and then you can see up here, you can select Gemini 2.5 Flash Image Preview. This is basically Nano Banana. So as of right now, these are the 2 places where you can use Nano Banana or Gemini 2.5 Flash. And if you're a developer, the nice thing is this is also already available via their API. So you can start integrating Gemini 2.5 Flash Image into your apps right now. Next, let's also look at some benchmarks. So here is what Google shared. Notice that compared to GPT-4o or Flux Context or Qwen Image Edit, Gemini 2.5 Flash just beats everyone in most of these benchmarks, including overall preference, character, creativity, infographics, and object and environment. Now, I already showed you this leaderboard by LM Arena where Nanobanana is ranked number 1, and it leads by a huge margin. Now, in addition to this LM Arena leaderboard, just in another one by Artificial Analysis also added Gemini 2.5 Flash for image editing. And as you can see, it also destroys everyone else by a huge margin. So notice the ELO score is over 1200, whereas the rest of these are like hovering around the 1100 range. So I mean, objectively speaking, I hope you can see across all my examples and across all these leaderboards where people blind test different AI models, you can see that Gemini 2.5 Flash or Nanobanana is indeed the best image editor you can use right now. Anyways, that sums up my review of Nanobanana. And keep in mind, this is only Flash. This isn't even the normal or pro version. Plus, this is only the preview version. So can you imagine how good the pro version of this would be? And by the way, Gemini 2.5 Flash is not new. So they've had it for, I don't know, at least half a year. And I mean, it was always a multimodal model. So my suspicion is that Google had this all along, including its image generation and editing capabilities, but they just haven't released it until now. And that just gets you to wonder, what other insane AI models do they have behind closed doors that they haven't released yet? It's probably some revolutionary, mind-blowing stuff. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of this and what other impressive generations were you able to do with Nanobanana or Gemini 2.5 Flash. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.